They said he went mad, that he lost himself in visions, spoke with phantoms, wandered between worlds that don't exist. But Carl Jung didn't go mad. He went deep, into the psyche, into the unconscious, into the dark waters that most men spend their entire lives avoiding. What he found there became one of the most haunting and mysterious documents in the history of psychology. The Red Book. Not a book of theories, not a clinical text, but a descent, a journal of visions drawn and written in blood-red ink, illustrated with symbols, archetypes, gods, and monsters, a private confrontation with the darkest corners of the human soul. This is not about how Jung cured patients. This is about how he nearly lost himself, and in doing so found something eternal. It begins in 1913. Jung is 40 years old, respected, a rising star in psychology, the heir to Freud's legacy. But something breaks, a rupture in his foundation. The split with Freud leaves him drifting, and beneath that, something older begins to surface. He begins to have waking visions, vivid, terrifying, a sea of blood, the death of Europe, serpents, a voice within speaking truths he never asked to hear. Jung doesn't suppress it. He doesn't run. He invites it in. He begins what he calls active imagination. He lets the images speak. He records every word, every conversation, then rewrites it into the Red Book. This isn't imagination. This is initiation. He writes it by hand, like a medieval manuscript, decorates it with mandalas, ancient symbols, mythological figures. He speaks to entities, Philemon, Elijah, Salome. They're not metaphors, they're real to him. They are parts of the psyche, yes, but not just his, yours, mine, universal forces, archetypes buried in the collective unconscious. The Red Book isn't about dreams, it's about reality, the reality that lies beneath appearances, beneath ego, beneath reason. Here's what most people miss. Jung wasn't just writing a personal diary. He was mapping the descent into the unconscious. He was building a path through madness, through chaos, toward individuation. That's the term he uses. Individuation. The process of becoming whole. Not balanced, whole. And wholeness includes the dark. You can't become whole by ignoring your shadow. You can't find your soul by pretending the unconscious doesn't exist. You have to go down, into the darkness, into the blood, into the chaos. The Red Book is not comfortable. It's not logical. It is the raw experience of confronting the mythic dimension within, the place where your personal wounds meet ancient symbols, where your trauma becomes myth, where you realize your pain isn't just yours, it's archetypal. This is where modern psychology fears to tread, because here, the line between reality and vision breaks down. Jung wasn't afraid of that breakdown. He believed the psyche is vast, that it contains gods, demons, heroes, that when you deny them, they return, twisted. That's what shadow work really means. It's not just healing wounds. It's reconciling with your inner devil. It's looking at the serpent in your chest and admitting, that's me. Jung says, to confront a man with his own shadow is to show him his own light. But you don't get to the light unless you're willing to face what's hidden. That's what the Red Book is, a journey through the abyss, and it begins, as all real transformations do, with chaos. Jung writes of being pulled into darkness, of standing before ancient gods, of wandering deserts, of crucifixions. He meets a figure named Elijah, the prophet, and Salome, the temptress. Together, they represent a polarity, spirit and instinct. Then comes Philemon, the wise old man, a figure who becomes his inner guide, not just a character, an inner force. He speaks with authority. He tells Jung truths that shatter him. At one point, Philemon says, "You must give birth to your images. They are the future waiting to be born." Let that sink in. These visions are not distractions. They're messages, blueprints, from the unconscious, from the collective past, from what we might call soul. And this is where it gets dangerous, because to follow these images means to abandon logic, to let the irrational lead, to trust what comes uninvited. Jung does not control the process. He surrenders to it. This is what makes him different from modern thinkers. He's not trying to fix the unconscious. He's listening to it. That is what makes the Red Book powerful. It's not a theory. It's a record of submission, of inner confrontation. A man wrestling with himself, not to win, but to understand. There are no affirmations here, no quick fixes, no positivity, only descent, downward, inward. And the message is clear. If you want to find your soul, you have to lose everything else. That's why most people run from this work. They don't want to dissolve the ego. They want to decorate it. They want therapy to make them functional in a broken system. But Jung knew functionality is not wholeness. Sometimes dysfunction is initiation. Sometimes breakdown is the beginning of rebirth. That's what the Red Book is about. Death and rebirth. The ancient path of the hero, but told not through myth, but through inner experience. It's alchemical, transformative, brutal, and it demands everything. Jung didn't write the Red Book for the world. He wrote it because he had to, because his sanity depended on it. And that's what makes it honest. It wasn't performative, it wasn't intellectual, it was survival, soul survival. You see, most people think the mind is a machine, a tool to be optimized. But Jung knew the truth. The psyche is a world, a vast living terrain, with laws, forces, beings. Ignore it and you become its puppet. Face it and you become its master. But mastery doesn't mean domination. It means integration. Jung went into the unconscious not to conquer it, but to reconcile with it, to bring back what was missing. That's what individuation is. Not self-improvement, not self-optimization, but self-confrontation. He writes about slaying heroes, watching gods die, becoming serpents, loving Salome, who represents blind instinct. He embraces the feminine, not to be soft, but to become whole. He meets the dead. He walks with ghosts. He enters temples that dissolve into sand. And all of it happens inside. It's not hallucination. It's not fiction. It's a confrontation with the symbolic layer of reality, the mythic layer. This is what people misunderstand about Jung. He wasn't just a psychologist. He was a myth maker, a bridge between science and spirit, between the rational and the irrational, between the surface and the depth. The Red Book is his bridge. When Jung speaks of the unconscious, he doesn't mean a personal file cabinet of repressed memories. He means the deep ocean of human experience, ancestral memory, archetypes that have existed since before time. The mother, the father, the shadow, the trickster, the wise old man, the divine child. These are not stories. These are structures of the psyche. They live in every one of us. And when ignored, they twist into pathology. That's why the world is sick. Because we've rejected myth. We've exiled the soul. We've replaced ritual with routine and wonder with distraction. Jung tried to bring it back, but first, he had to break. He said, the years, When I pursued the inner images were the most important of my life. Everything else is secondary. This from a man who redefined psychology. Yet he says it was the private, terrifying work, alone, at night, with visions and voices that mattered most. You have to ask yourself, when was the last time you listened to what your unconscious was saying? Not your thoughts, not your goals, but the dream beneath the goals, the wound beneath the success. Most men today are fractured. They wear masks, chase status, suppress emotion, perform strength. But Jung shows us there is no real strength without surrender, not to the world, to the unconscious, to the part of you that doesn't speak in language, but in symbol, image, emotion, shadow. You can't rationalize your way to the soul. You have to feel it, see it, and sometimes be destroyed by it. Jung let himself be destroyed. He gave up everything, certainty, prestige, comfort, to walk the inner path. And the map he brought back is the Red Book. But here's the truth. It's not a book you read. It's a book that reads you. It calls out your false personas. It confronts your inner coward. It asks what part of you still clings to the surface and what part is ready to descend. Because descent is the beginning of all transformation. In mythology, the hero must go underground, to the cave, the tomb, the belly of the beast. Jung went there, not metaphorically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and the monsters he met, they looked a lot like himself. That's the terrifying truth about shadow work. The enemy is not outside. It's you, the rejected you, the ashamed you, the violent you, the needy, lustful, selfish, fearful, fractured you. And the Red Book says, integrate him. Don't kill him. Don't exile him. Bring him in. The soul is not found in perfection. It's found in totality, in owning your darkness, your madness, your chaos, without becoming it. Jung didn't escape his visions. He befriended them. He didn't heal by force. He healed by truth. And truth, in the language of the unconscious, is symbolic. It's irrational. It speaks in color, in death, in myth. That's why the Red Book is filled with bizarre images. Serpents winding around crosses, bleeding trees, naked gods, exploding suns. Because the soul doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in mystery. And mystery is not meant to be solved. It's meant to be entered. That's what Jung did. He entered. He didn't conquer the Red Book. He was changed by it. And that's the invitation it offers to you. Not to understand, but to surrender. Not to fix, but to feel. Not to pretend to be strong, but to become whole. And wholeness begins when you stop asking who you should be and start listening to who you already are beneath the noise. Beneath the mask, there is a voice, a symbol, a dream. That voice is your Red Book.